Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Matt and Garrett back with you again. And excited to be with you today, as we always are. But we've been, Matt and I have had a little bit of time this morning kicking around some ideas, and we have landed on one that we are excited about. To start everything off, if you want to learn more about what Matt and I do on an everyday basis, go check us out at Ninja Coaching. You can also check us out at Ninja Selling under the coaching tab. We also have a group of amazing coaches that I've worked hard to put together that can help you along the ninja path. If that's something you're interested in. They have helped many people build the life that they've dreamt about, help them get to their goals, have a life as well as building their goals in their business. We've got an incredible group there. And we also have the Facebook community on Facebook. That is the Ninja Selling Podcast community. Go check that out. 14,000, give or take, people in there, a little bit more, of like-minded people that are along the ninja path that are working together to help each other experience ninja the best it could possibly be. In the meantime here, we have an episode for you. Matt, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Garrett. And yeah, this is a fun episode. We get to talk a little bit about time, something that we've talked about before, and we'll probably talk about time and time again. But Sarah brought this up to you, and I love this idea.
Well, and the reason this is so important is this is not the first time we've had an episode around this energy of time, but it's also one of the things that gets away from people the most when it comes to building your calendars, building your schedules. And, we just did business planning. There's a lot of people right now that are implementing their business plans in the new year. And part of the business plan is they did this elaborate, perfect week. They organized everything out. They've got all this stuff they're supposed to show up for every single day. And a lot of times it is empty appointments. It's empty energy appointments is the best way to say it. It's something that's on their calendar that they know they should do. They know they kind of want to do, but if something better comes up, I'll probably go do that. And I think that's where a lot of people get into this hamster wheel of a calendar. And there's two things that can happen with a calendar. One is that we don't even have it on the calendar. And that's why we don't show up and do it. It's like saying, I want to go work out. And you're like, gosh, another month went by and didn't work out. Well, it wasn't even on the calendar. That's an easy one to fix. The harder one to fix is when you have it on the calendar, but you chose not to show up for it. And you get into a really bad habit around that. And you just keep putting things on the calendar. And it's just like, it's optional if you want to be there or not. Sarah, we were kind of talking about this as we were going through business planning. And she said, you know what? She goes, we should change the verbiage around time blocking to time deposits. And we actually had a great meeting. We sat down, she kind of explained this idea of what she had. And where it really came down to is deposits should give you returns when you make a deposit into something. She said, what if we looked at time spent in writing notes? It's not just writing notes. It's not just putting cards out there. It's a deposit that you're making of a block of energy that you're putting out that if done right, you will get a return on. Same thing. And you get a return in many ways. Return might be coming in income, might be coming in a stronger relationship, might be coming in making somebody feel special, important, taken care of. Every single system that we have around Ninja, you can look at that and understand it's not just a check the box system. It's a deposit being made with the opportunity of a return coming back on it. Going and having lunch, by the way, with your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your kids, these are all time deposits too. It could just be like a thing that you're planning on doing because that's your obligation as a husband or a spouse. Or it could be like there's a reason we have date night. It's a deposit into our amazing relationship and making sure that we have time to talk and to unwind and decompress and get on the same page together. When Sarah said this, it resonated with me, Matt, so well. And it made me step back and say, what if we change the verbiage around this with everybody that I talk? And I probably will. I think after where I've kind of gone through my journey with this, especially through this last couple of months, I'm going to really start focusing on this with people in this way. And I kind of tossed this to you at the beginning before we even started to hit record. I was like, let me throw this idea at you really quick. And you got all excited about it. You're like, that's what we're talking about today. So I want to hear your side of this.
Well, it's such a nice way to look at it, because if we look at how we block out our calendar, like there are activities that are the deposits and there's activities that are their withdrawals, right? And when you mentioned this concept, I thought about like when agents don't show up for a time block because something else happens, right? Oh, well, I got to go do this. They're trading the deposit for a withdrawal, but you can only withdraw so much before you get to zero. And so if you spend all your time trading out these deposits for withdrawals, then at some point you're going to go, I got a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when you said that, I was like, oh, that makes it so much clearer, because it helps you then design clarity for yourself around why we're doing these things. Like you said, if you know why you're showing up to lunch with your spouse or your parents or whatever, if the clarity is there, you understand that it's a deposit. And so might still make you anxious and all that kind of stuff. But at least it gives you the knowledge of, I know I'm doing the right thing for my future. Actually, I just thought of this too. One of my clients said to me the other day, and this was great. He said, what I realized is, these phone calls that I put off, that's a missed opportunity to put $250 in the bank. Every phone call I make is $250 in the bank. It's like, so why not make sure I show up for those blocks where I need to make the phone calls, because I have the potential of putting in a lot of money in the bank by making those phone calls. And he's like, now I know it's not coming to me right away. He's like, but I'm putting it in there, and that's going to then be available for withdrawal at some point. And I was like, that's brilliant.
The mindset shift on that is absolutely amazing, because so often we only look at the moment we get paid is when that check gets handed over from title to you. And we go, I got paid today. And what an incredible way to change the mindset into like, I just made technically, just put 5 phone calls down and said, but technically made what, $1,000 today. Like more than that. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you're putting, and so this concept of like depositing time. And so when you look at, and I think you can even maybe when you look at time blocking, so to speak, like you can even identify which activities are deposit activities versus withdrawal activities versus, account maintenance activities, right? Like balancing the checkbook, so to speak, because those activities happen as well. And if you have clarity, and I mean, all the on the business stuff is the deposit, right? That is the work. I mean, you hear this in all venues, right? Athletes, they're not showing up on the field on game day in a certain way. They're showing up for practice. They're putting the deposits in during practice, during their sleep, during their nutrition. They're doing all that so that when they go out on the field on game day, they can withdraw all of that to perform at the highest level. And as these correlations and ideas exist, but we don't necessarily apply it to our personal schedules.
So let's go to health for a second, Matt, because you resonate with health. We'll talk about cars in a second. But when you look at health, it's like you mentioned sleep. So sleep would be a deposit.
Yep.
Eating is a deposit. And by the way, deposits give you returns no matter what. If I chose right now, and I am really sensitive to sugar and certain foods, like I have like major sensitivities to things, I know for a fact I can ruin my next 3 days by the deposits I choose to make. If I choose to go and eat all the sugar that we received over, Lisa Connor, who's a coach of ours, sent us 25 whoopie pies from Maine. If I chose to go and finish all those off because they're just so darn good, why not? I mean, they're tasty. We should have them. That would ruin me for days from the sugar crash and all kinds of stuff that would come around with that. These are all deposits. And I think there's good deposits, there's bad deposits. And I think this allows you to start to look at like, what are we putting in? Sleep, food, drink, water. Did I choose? I've noticed lately, Matt, and I did just realizing this about my deposits, because again, not drinking, been drinking a lot of seltzer water. And I was like, this is great. This is a great alternative. Super dehydrating, by the way. Like it does not a replacement for water. Like it's not in any way, shape, or form. And I could tell a difference in how my body feels when I'm drinking seltzer water compared to when I'm drinking actual water. Like it's a huge difference. when you look at your business, I think the interesting thing about this also is not all deposits are created equal into your business.
Yep.
A handwritten note, let's say, is going to have a different return on it than a real estate review.
How you write that handwritten note's going to have a different return on it. How you do that real estate review is going to have a different return.
100%. Like all of this stuff, like you can change how all this stuff works. I mean, I know people that are in incredibly amazing shape. And when they get done with a really intense workout, they eat a whole pizza to themselves. And you sit back and you go, oh, that's not a really good idea. You're messing up your workout. And they're like, no, I need the carbs. I need all this stuff. Like I am building something here and I know exactly what I'm doing. It's an interesting thing, Matt, because that pizza, if done without the workout, sitting down and eating an extra large pizza all by yourself, just no going for a walk, no going for a run, no getting on the bike. You do that every single day and you're going to have a problem.
That's true.
But if done in the right way, and this is the interesting thing with, as you said, writing a handwritten note in the right way has a larger deposit than other times. I think actually doing it in the wrong way can hurt you. I've had notes from the same person over and over and over again that you can tell they're just checking boxes and it has nothing to do with them actually caring and wanting to write a note. And it's like, really? You're starting to kind of like, it's losing its luster here of like you sending me notes. I think it's really important as you start to look at this and say, what kind of deposit am I making?
Yeah, you definitely have to look at that. And it kind of gives you a whole different sense of just time overall, right? And I think this actually allows you to start to bend time to your advantage. And this is hard, right?
Bend time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep going.
Here's the thing too, this is hard for me, right? As well. Like I'm thinking about my own calendar, how I run things and everything, and thinking about, certain activities, what's income producing, what's not, what income producing activities are withdrawals versus deposits. And this is not an easy task to just be like, oh, let me just go to my calendar and like, whoop, there's deposit, withdrawal, and all these things. Because when I say bend time, right, we all feel that stress of there's so many things I want to do and there's not enough time to fit it in, right? And I feel that a lot with different ideas that I have, the businesses that I'm involved in. And it's like, well, I have this new idea. It could be big, but where am I going to fit in to do this and that? And that's where making space also to analyze your time so that you have better understanding of at what level of a deposit is this? What is risk versus reward in doing these things? But having that space to go and analyze that so that when you plan your calendar, you do start to bend time in a way of, well, if I do write my handwritten notes in a certain way, if I write them to certain people in my database, for example, I had a conversation with a client this week about her database saying, hey, let's go back. When's the last time we've done the deep dive on the database? Like, it's been a little bit. I'm like, okay, let's go clarify. Let's just start with your A group of people. It's like, there's just really two groups of people I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on people who have referred you 2 or more deals that have actually closed and people that have done 3 or more transactions with you, right? That's your first group. Your next group are people that have referred you 1 or more deals that have closed, or they've done a or 1 or 2 transactions with you. Those are the only 2 groups. He's like, well, what about the people who've referred me people that haven't closed? And I said, we want to be very, very clear from a business perspective on what is actually producing income from this time invested. Not saying we're not going to take care of those people. We'll get to that. But let's focus on these 2 groups first so that we understand that these are the higher value places where we can spend time that will deposit at a greater level so that the return comes back. Maybe it's like those people are like a high interest savings account, whereas other people are like a, low interest checking account, let's just say.
Yep.
Still want to pay attention to both. But if we understand the people and the activities and how we do those things, then all of a sudden our time deposit, think about when we say income per hour, Garrett, we're mostly looking at what has been earned, right? But if we can look at that as a projection of, well, if I spend time here, this is going to produce that same income, but in less time, that's going to be an increase in income per hour, clearly, right? So now you've bent time.
Well, it's interesting as you talk about this idea of bending time. And I think there's 2 sides to this. The first side is that, and I think for everybody listening out there, Matt, as we're sitting here kind of going down all these different avenues, one is that just understanding that this concept of you have time blocks in your calendar every day and asking yourself, is that a deposit or is it a withdrawal? I think is really important because we can easily go through a day of full withdrawals. We can easily go through a full day where we have little teeny deposits here that are going to build the bigger, better future. And a lot of it is just taking what we've created over time. And I think as an adult, you can actually get away because of everything you built and all the time you put in, all the relationships you've grown over the years. You're going to get a little bit of a return no matter what for a while. That'll kind of like, you can get away with some really bad habits for a while. When you're wanting to grow, when you're wanting to be better, this is where I think your opportunities really come in to say, okay, let's really analyze the type of time that I'm putting in and what's going on here. Matt, you just did a marathon.
Yeah.
You did a ton of deposits. I was so incredibly impressed by you when we were in, and I already mentioned it on here, but when we were in Charleston and you were coming to the class at like 7:30 in the morning, I texted you and I said, I'm out of my energy drinks that I like to drink and I need a protein bar. Like, as I'm not eating the food that is here for breakfast because that does not fit into a healthy deposit that's going to make me operate like a good person.
Danishes and
Nope.
Processed carbs aren't the breakfast of champions.
Nope, can't do it. That'll ruin me. But I have certain things. I know certain things that will make me feel good in the morning. I can get away with water, I can get away with the Celsius, and I can get away with certain protein bars. And I remembered calling you and said, hey, dude, can you pick this stuff up on your way in? And you said, yeah, I'm starving too. I just ran 20 miles.
22.
Sorry, 22 miles to be correct. But I was like, okay, here we are all getting ready for this class this morning. It's 7:30 in the morning. Class is starting in about an hour. And here I am talking to a gentleman that got up and ran 22 miles before coming to the time that I'm going to be sitting with him. Most people are complaining about, really, we got 7:30, we're going to be in the lobby, 8 o'clock, we're going to be in the lobby. And here's a guy who's already run 22 miles. The reason you were doing that, though, was a deposit you were making for the success that you wanted to have at the marathon.
Yeah.
You wanted to be able to cross the finish line at the end. You wanted to be able to get through this and have a story to tell about your journey that you did and making this happen for yourself and whatever your personal reasons were for getting to that finish line of the marathon. And I know a lot of it was overcoming health issues that you've been dealing with your back and nerve stuff and things like that. When you start picking those things apart and you really understand the deposits that you're making, I think, again, first is just understanding if you're making deposits at all. Second is that, let's really get focused on these things you want to accomplish. And then we can analyze. And I think with bending time, this is where the quality of your deposits, this is where you can really then start to analyze that. We have a joke in our family because we had Relay for Life came to Grants Pass many, many, many years ago. We're going back probably about 15 years ago as of right now. And they had the 24-hour walk for Relay for Life. I made the joke where I'm gonna walk the full 24 hours. And people are like, how are you training? And I'm like, I've been training from this since I was 2. Like, I don't need to train to walk. I know how to walk. Why would I train? I walk every single day. I walk to the kitchen. I walk, to the car. I walk like I don't need to train. Ruined myself. There was no success that happened. I did walk 30 miles.
It's a lot.
It was a lot. My knee gives out at 30 miles though. That's when my knee was like, yeah, we're just going to shut this thing down. We're going to lock this thing up for you and let you sit down.
So that was probably like 10 hours, right?
11 hours.
11 hours. Yeah.
I'm a slow walker. It was the people that were with me. I didn't have a choice. I had to stay with the pack. But I think like that was me not making the right deposits to be able to accomplish something like that. And I think when we look at our businesses, and this is what we talked about on our last podcast about, if you want to be a professional, show up as a professional.
Yeah.
You want to be a marathon runner, show up like how a marathon runner shows up. Like, they don't just go out there and run a marathon. They train and they work and they make deposits that make that thing happen. You want to be an expert in luxury real estate. Make the deposits that allow you to be an expert in luxury real estate. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't fall out of the sky for you. If you want to make the ability, like my daughter's working at hitting her squat record right now at the gym, and to watch like what she's eating and putting it. I've never seen anybody drink more milk right now. I don't know if it's a good thing, but man, she is like, just like her diet and her regimen is so strict. And she's got a goal and she's excited about it. She's focused on it, but she's not just going there and just trying to squat more every single time, going like, whoa, it didn't improve.
Right.
She's going in and working out and making the deposits to make that goal happen. And I think this is where people need to step back. And again, as I said, first analyze your schedule to see, are you making any deposits at all? Just hoping that you're going to have withdrawals to happen in the future that are going to fit your dreams.
Yeah.
Or are you really putting in ones? And Matt, I love what you said about bending time, because, we talk about dollar per hour, and every single time your dollar per hour goes up, you're technically bending time from what you had before. And the same time invested worth more now.
Yeah. Well, we all have the same amount of time every day, right? So why are some people, quote, more successful than others? And when I say that, I mean that from a pure income perspective and also from a relationship with their spouse perspective, right? There all of these things that we look at and it's like, well, how do those people, and here's the other thing, acknowledge at least for yourself that you also have it pretty darn good, right? Like,
yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast, if you're in the place to be able to analyze this and think about this, like there are some great things that are going on in your world too, that other people are going like, man, how does that person do it? Like, how do they have that? And so don't look at this as hey, you need to beat yourself up about how you manage your time, but you need to be outrageously clear with what do you want to do? What do you want your time to do for you, so that you're able to also understand that when, like, by the way, waking up at the time I needed to wake up to run 22 miles before that class, I don't recommend that. But I also knew that if I wanted to get to 22-mile run in, that was the only time that I would have, unless I wanted to sacrifice time with my family over the weekend, which certainly is a viable option, but it's not something that I wanted to do, particularly after doing all these events every night and having Jen be like, hey, you got the kids every night this week because I'm at this installation. So, there's choices that you got to make but if you're clear on what those activities, what those time deposits do for you, it makes it so much easier. Cause I had the thought Thursday, I was like, maybe I will do the run. I'll wake up early Saturday, or maybe I'll wake up early Sunday and do it, even though it was on my schedule to do it. And then as I was going home on Thursday, like, no, I'm just going to get up and do it. Like, that's what I said. I need to get that run in. It's going to pay off in the long run. I'm going to be tired as anything on Friday. I'm going to crash when I come home Friday night. I was like, but it's going to be worth it. And it was, right? I mean, everything worked out for what I wanted it to be for the marathon, aside from my legs locking up at mile 16. But that's just the bank to make it for my goal time. So
that was weakness leaving the body. You're fine.
Yeah. Now it is gone. So I love this idea because it is something that I need to pay attention to more. I mean, in a way, I guess I had been paying attention to it without even realizing it. But this idea of like, I think there's certain things that people say, and with Sarah saying, how do we look at this as time deposits? That once you hear it, you can't unhear that. And so every time I look at my calendar now, I'm going to be looking at it and be like, am I making a deposit, or am I being a POS and not doing that?
Well, and so this idea of bending time is now where you've got me stuck, because I was starting to think about like, so I am physically stronger than my 16-year-old son. I can only say that for a little bit longer because the dude is getting much bigger than me quickly. But it's interesting is like, I know that I have him come help me on the ranch all the time. And when we're out on the ranch and we're either splitting wood or moving rocks, we have a lot of rock walls on the ranch that we have to just rebuild. Cows knock them over, all kinds of stuff. Trees fall on them, all kinds of things. It's interesting is that like when you talk about the idea of bending time, I can technically move more rocks in the same amount of time. I can move more logs in the same amount of time. Technically, like I am bending the same activity I can get more done in the same amount of time. And the only reason is that one is physically I'm a little bit stronger than him. Second is I have knowledge about how to do things that he has not learned yet. Certain things that when it comes to splitting logs, cutting logs, certain rocks that I know if I can pick up in a certain way, I can move. I know there's certain rocks where he's going to struggle trying to move it. And I'm like, I'm coming back with a tractor for that one. I'm not even going to bother with it. I've got a tool that will help me do that faster. He doesn't even think about the tractor because he doesn't know how to use it yet. This is where I come back into how are we learning and growing around all these things. This is where the bending of time can happen, is that we've made these deposits to learn. And sometimes it's a physical strength, but a lot of times it's just knowledge. And a lot of you every single day, and this is where I was talking about being like a luxury expert or maybe it's an investment property expert. Maybe it's in being able to help people flip properties and things like that. There's deposits that a lot of you have made that allow you watch people in your industry going, wow, how did they ever get there? Well, they have made a lot of deposits over time to get them to that place that they're in.
Yeah.
They may have also not made deposits in other areas.
It's possible
that you might be stronger than them. But wherever you want to go, give the time. Give the time to grow. Give the time to learn. Give the time to figure it out. I think in real estate, again, we have a lot of opportunities around this, but make your deposits. And that's where this episode came from today. One, Sarah, but I think the episode may have gotten turned into this idea of bending time because I got very excited about that. So thank you, Matt.
Yeah. I think, be prepared to use those deposits in the best way. And I know we kind of touched on this, but as you were talking, I was thinking about how agents are, particularly at a year transition, thinking about the investments they're making in the services that help them, a transaction coordinator, assistant, print services, marketing services, all of the things. And a lot of times like, oh, what I can do that myself. If I hire an assistant, it might take them a little bit. I can do it faster. So isn't that an element of bending time? It's like, well, but if you didn't have to do it at all, right?
Yep.
If you just didn't do it, you are buying that time back, but you need to be prepared then to show up for that deposit that is comparing this back to, and I think it was Kevin McCarthy down in Austin who was telling me about the $250 per call. Be like Kevin, where it's like, okay, if I'm going to pay for somebody to do this, I'm going to go spend the time on the phone because that's $250 per call. So I know if I'm paying somebody $30 an hour to do this task, in an hour, if I can get 4 phone calls done, I'm not going to see that $1,000 in my bank account, but I'm going to be depositing $1,000 into my business that I'm going to get a withdrawal because I'm making that. And if I do that consistently, paying for that $30 an hour employee is going to provide me $970 per those hours that I'm showing up for phone calls. It's insane.
Well, and it becomes exponential too, because all of a sudden having that person alleviates other things in your business. And this is where a lot of people just get locked into the dollar for dollar trade-off. And the reality is that as your services become better, as you take better care of your people, as you're able to have better relationships and take care of more business, it's an exponential growth. This is where we joke a lot of times, Matt, that like going from 0 to 100,000 and then from 100,000 to 200,000 is not just doing more.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's just doing the same better or fine tuning what you're currently doing that all of a sudden unlocks this next level of income. That's the craziness of all this. When we talk about bending time.
Yeah.
Is that it's not a 1-for-1 return. Again, this is where I go back to the knowledge that you gain every single day, what you're learning about. That also can help you bend that time, help you grow and get better.
Yeah.
All deposits, man. All deposits.
There's so many fun concepts around time. And I'll leave with this too. Ryan Serhant did a video years ago about time and the number of seconds that we have in a day. And he said, every day you get to start with that same number, but at the end of every day, it's completely gone. Like you don't get to reserve that for the next day, but the next day you get a whole brand new set of time. And it's how you use that matters in that day because it never comes back to you. You cannot get that time back. And so equating that thought to like, okay, well then I want to use that time to make deposits because if I don't, I've missed that window. Like, it's not like I make up for it. Like, sure, we try to make up for things, but that time never comes back. I can do the activity again, but the time is gone. This is great. I love it, man. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing this topic to your attention, Garrett, so that we could talk about it.
Yeah, and I was taught many, many, many years ago that time is our only non-renewable resource. Everything else will generate. We can fix it. We can, for the most part, we can work with it. But time is one of those things. You're only allotted so much time in this life.
The crazy part about that is like we can focus on longevity and all, because people say, well, but if you're healthier, you're going to live longer. Yes, you can add more time, but the time that was just here, that time is gone.
It's gone.
Right? Like this moment that we're having here, if we're super healthy, we can have a lot more of these moments for a long time. But this one has now expired.
Well, it's again, and then you can look back, and this is an interesting thing too, that we probably have a whole other episode on, is looking back and analyzing the time that you put into this. Like, I can easily look back at yesterday and say, okay, did I maximize the use of my time? Could I have done things differently? If I would have approached that day differently, would I have gotten a different outcome that I did get? I had a great day yesterday. I'm going to tell everybody right now, I accomplished a first, check something off my list. I officially attached the transmission to the motor of a small block Ford, and against all the warnings on the machine that I was using, I did it by myself. It said it needs 2 physically fit human beings, and I did it with 1 semi-physically fit human being.
I'd say probably to their qualification standard. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
There we go. Yeah, I made up for it. But I look back at the day and everything that I learned and everything I did and all the runs to the parts store and all the stuff. Like, I look back at yesterday with the huge success of time deposited into this life that I'm creating.
That's really cool, by the way.
Very easy though. And I've had days where I've sat down and got stuck on YouTube and started, with an idea of learning about something, and all of a sudden I'm watching junk. It's one thing to go like, oh man, I kind of got stuck in that loop. That was a waste of time. But it's another thing when you start looking at it as like, that was my time that I had a choice to make. And is it worth it? I know for one thing, and I'm almost there, Matt, I've got to make the commitment to it. I'm pretty sure here in a couple of days, TikTok is going to be deleted off my phone. But it's because it's one of those areas that I look at that I can get stuck in, and all of a sudden 5-10 minutes passes and 15 minutes pass. And you start looking at that and saying, well, what if I did something different with that time? But it's easy to get stuck into these deposits that we're making into our world. And for me, it's like that thing just needs to go. Like it's just got to go. Like there's certain things that I think you get to certain places. And if you're not analyzing it, it's just part of your life. But if you analyze it, you get to make decisions about it.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, awesome discussion. I'm sure many of you listening have new ideas about your schedule, your time blocks, your deposits, I hope. So we appreciate you guys joining us, because we know that you have a choice of how you want to spend your time. And you choose that, at least in this moment, to spend that time with us. And we are forever grateful, because we know how valuable your time is. So thank you so much for joining us for this. If you guys want to join our community, head over to Facebook and search for the Ninja Selling Podcast. It is the fastest growing community about real estate and ninja in the entire universe. And we want you there with us. So please go find that and join. Answer the questions, by the way, when you click join, because that way we know you're actually intending to join, so we can let you in. If you don't, we don't. And so that's kind of the story there. But there's always this too.
I want to add in real quick too. One thing we do get a lot is people will recommend this to their friends. They'll basically do a blanket invite, a whole group of people. They'll invite their office, their accountability partners and whatnot. If you do that, make sure you let them know to go in there and answer the questions. We're not just going to accept them in just because we got a blanket of people there. I delete groups of probably 200 at a time, probably monthly, as they just sit in there and they won't come in and answer the questions. They were invited by somebody. So if you truly think they're going to find value in it, let them know, have them come and answer the questions. Even though they get alerted, let them know what they got invited to.
Yeah.
I get invited to groups all the time that I just go like, I have no interest in being involved with that. Moving along. Let them know, answer the questions. Otherwise, we just delete them and we'll move along. And when they're ready for it, they can come back over. So
yeah, no doubt. Well, thanks, guys. Keep tuning in. We'll be here. Appreciate y'all for listening, for sharing and doing all the great things. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.